Autodesk discovered that trust and culture can be just as big of a hurdle, and you have to pay attention to it. So let's hear from Leo on how to build an AI-first marketing organization. And Greg is back on the stage as the host. So welcome both.
Thanks, Maxwell. Leo, good to see you again.
Good to see you, Greg. I hope you had a chance to have lunch. And
I
by the
did,
way,
yes, I did. And I'm going to dive right in. I want to set the scene for everybody. The Autodesk marketing team, global, and it's around 700 people. Is that right?
Yeah, it's more or less, depending
Okay.
on how you count it. Yes.
Yeah, sure. And then your team is about 40, I think, in terms of marketing operations. And you are one of the leaders in this transformation in terms of turning the global Autodesk marketing team into an AI first team, or at least an AI proficient team. So is that an accurate lay of the land?
That's right. So I lead the MarTech and AI team within the marketing organization.
Yeah.
And one of our initiatives is to make the all of marketers in the company proficient with AI. And I'm calling from the Boston office. This is different than the sync-up that we had today. And even if you see there's nobody behind me, there's a large team that is supporting this initiative. This is a team effort. It's not just me. So I'm representing that team that is doing the work.
Yeah, for sure. And as I understand it, it was the CEO of Autodesk who said to the CMO, we want, you guys go first, right? Marketing kind of be the tip of the spear, to use that analogy, for the rest of the organization in terms of deploying AI and generating value from it. Is that accurate?
Well, I can tell you that executive support makes a big difference. And it was our CMO who told the marketing team it was a very clear goal. 100% of marketers are going to be using AI by the end of this fiscal year, right? So that is encouraging for the entire organization. And it's also, there's a nuance to that, right? It's not just using the tools, because everyone has the tools, right? I mean, you can just light up Copilot for $30 a month for every person. But the differentiation is proficiency, because when you start moving people from being just an experimental casual user to actually be proficient with the tool, that at least doubles the productivity and the quality of their work. And when you combine the subject matter expertise of a marketer with AI tools, then that's when we really make a difference with our team.
Okay, slow down. I want to go back to the beginning though. So, because you said the 100% of the team, marketing, global, proficient by the end of the fiscal year. What is that time frame? When did you start, and when do you have to achieve that by? Is this like 12 months? Is this like 12 months, or how long?
So we started this initiative. Well, it was not just for AI as a technology initiative, and some of the panelists have talked about how important is change management in people. So this started as at the beginning of the year, more like in May or June, anchored to people outcomes. So we positioned AI as career development at the beginning, like building skills. And we had an event, it's called Career Week, that is led by the enablement team in our marketing organization. And then when doing this thing, it was great because it reduced the fear, right? And it built like real engagement. And this is the way that we started again a few months ago, but it was people metrics first before we go into, like, now we're advancing, right? And now we're advancing, how do we get into workflows, outcomes, and how do we actually measure business impact? But it has been about 6 months, and it started as a people initiative first.
Yeah. And then when you think about proficiency, Leo, it seems hard to establish a proficiency benchmark because AI is changing so quickly. So how do you think about that? Is it sort of proficiency at a moment in time, and then we've got to go back in 6 or 12 months and sort of, continuously kind of upskill and continuously check in on proficiency? Because being proficient a year ago would be different than being proficient today. I'm just curious how you think about that rate of change in terms of the AI's capabilities. So how do you think about proficiency? Is it a one-time thing, or is it a continuous?
Yeah, it's difficult to find an objective metric for proficiency, but it's not impossible. I mean, if you ask everyone, are you proficient in AI? People are going to tell you, of course I am. I use it every day. I use ChatGPT at home for me, right? But what does it mean to be proficient? And then we did some research and then look at what are the different organizations, different teams. The section team actually has proficiency benchmark that you design something that I believe it looks at the syntax of the prompt, how do you structure the prompt, and then a little bit of self-reflection on what are the things that you know about AI, and then you score it, right? 60, 61, 75 or something. And at least you have a baseline. And then what you do is that you measure, then you upskill, and in upskilling, there's a multiple set of initiatives that we can talk about, and then you measure again, right? And then with that, you start seeing, okay, so we are moving people. And then the idea is that you start moving people. So what's tricky here, Greg, is that there's a whole range of proficiency. You have the experts, right? Usually less than 5% of the team. You'll have the skeptics that are very difficult to move, and they have a lot of people in the middle. But when you really start moving some of the people in the middle from, like, they use it every now and then, to a little more proficient, you unlock a lot of productivity for the entire team, right? And it's hard to upskill people and to measure at different levels because their expectations are different. When our CMO says we want everyone to be proficient, for an expert, that definition is different than for someone that just a casual user, right? And then the access to training and things like that. So you can all go out there and then look for training everywhere, LinkedIn Learning, Maven. There's so much training out there, but you have to find a way to measure with a benchmark that is established, that has some recognition, and then you can work with over time.
Yeah. And and again, we're going to stay with this kind of phase one, and then we'll get to where we're at today, and looking ahead. But staying with this first sort of 6-9 months, you said you started as a people initiative. What I interpret that as you saying you did not therefore get as much resistance or anxiety, perhaps, because you led with this, hey, this is good for all of us, which obviously it is. Just curious what you think about sort of the level of resistance or anxiety, if there is any, or is it a small group, those skeptics, that kind of more isolated, and you've been able to get everybody else sort of moving along this change journey?
Well, I mean, if everybody is reading, we all subscribe to the same podcasts and newsletters and things like that, and there's a lot of fear about what it means when everyone becomes more productive, right? And I run an operations team, and an operations team, I mean, the name of the game of an operations strategy is always try to do more with less, right? And then what does that mean? That you can produce more work, faster work, higher quality work with the same amount of people. That's one way to do it. And then other ways to cut the formula that could be scary for people. But what really matters here is just giving people the skills so they can use these tools and combine it with the creativity that they have, and combining with the subject matter expertise that they have for whatever area of marketing in this case. Yeah.
Yeah. And let's bring us up to date. So where are you now? Like in terms of what like Q4, what's happened, and what are your priorities in that next 90 days, as much as you can share?
Sure. So so the first initiative was, so if you start thinking about AI, a lot of people think, oh, innovation, the edge of innovation. We have to create things that are incredible. So that's really important. But at the same time, you have to raise the floor of proficiency, right? So we started with that. Because like I mentioned before, all the productivity they get from the aggregate of all of the team members using it and becoming more productive. We have done things like make training available to the team. And the training that is available is through online certification and programs like that one. And in addition to that, we have monthly workshops. So we take these experts, right, that are super excited about it, and they have some use cases, and we invite them to share with the team. And we have these monthly sessions, it's a showcase. They love the spotlight, and they contribute some of the things that they have. Also, we're working with managers. So managers really matter. I mean, all of you in the audience that are people managers or have managers working for you, it is incredibly important that you get them to normalize the use of AI, even with simple things at the beginning, right? Get them to share, give them on a Friday, like, share your prompt that you use for home life balance or things like that. That makes a big difference of normalizing the use. And if your manager is really expecting that you use AI, they're going to use it. They're going to explore the tools. And then the other thing is that you have to create a community, right? Not just for the individual teams, but we we lit up this Slack channel that now has at least 2/3 of the organization participating, and it's just for experimentation, right? So we have some moderators that share things, and we have people that love to contribute. They go and share it, and then, the emojis and the likes, and, I love this, and here's another idea. That makes a big difference in terms of people. So the first step so far has been raising the floor of proficiency.
I want to go back to the manager, Leo, because I think that's a really, really important insight. I think we forget how much of change can either thrive or frankly die, right, at that mid-level. You can have executives who are championing the change, and you have, ambitious and growth-oriented ICs, right, individual contributors who are doing their thing ground up, but the managers aren't bought in. Was there different training for them, or they were included in the same training? And did you have expectations for them that you communicated to them in terms of their behavior?
We are working on it. It's not completely, but we're experimenting some of these things. I can tell you an example that is very, very recent. So this morning there was an offsite with managers for one of the organization, and we're trying to do this thing that in every offsite you need to have an AI workshop, right? If you want funding like that, that would be like my dream to have it. If you want funding for an offsite, you have to have at least 2 to 4 hours on a workshop. And in this workshop, and it was for managers, it was fantastic. We did some of the basic, like this is what good prompting is about, and these are opportunities for research and analysis and some use cases for them. But then the last hour was a facilitated workshop on, okay, let's just build a Copilot agent. And it was 4 teams, and there was a little bit of a competition, friendly competition. And then we voted at the end, and we closed it with celebration of the winner, of course, but also telling them, like, this thing that we're doing here, you have to build champions on your teams. You have to make sure that all of this happens with your own teams, that you normalize it, that you have fun. Even if some of the use cases are not necessarily at the beginning, bring in all of the business results that you're expecting, right? In your ROI journey, I would say you have to, is people metrics first, right? Proficiency, engagement, people participating. Then you start looking into, okay, what are the workflows that I can start automating that have productivity ROI and things like that. And those workflows actually going to get you to the business impact that you want, whether it's higher conversion rate or more time for outbound calls or things like that.
I love this idea of can't do an offsite, or you won't get budget for an offsite unless you include some AI. I mean, I think these are the kind of things they can sound very tactical, but they all add up, right? And they all add up to be change management, at a programmatic level, whether it be lunch and learns, hackathons, workshops at the offsite. All these things, I think they work. They just take a lot of work.
Yeah, that's right. And
did you volunteer for this, by the way, Leo? Did someone tap you on the shoulder and say, you got to do this? Or did you kind of raise your hand saying you want to do this? Like, how'd that come about?
I mean, look, my journey on this one, I'm sure that is like pretty much the same of more than, how do we have 3,000 people in the audience today? You all became very curious about this technology like 2.5 years ago, right? November, 22, when ChatGPT was out, you started exploring, and then you start using other tools, Midjourney and Synthesia and 11 Labs for audio, and you start exploring things. But I was very fortunate that there was a leadership development program that encouraged us to start like pushing the limits on the way that we work. So I used that program and the project that we had with that team as a sandbox for experimentation, right? And then you're starting to show to the executives these are the type of things that you can do. And obviously, when these mandates and these initiatives starting happening, of course, I raised my hand, right? When CMO called for a program for AI upskilling, I volunteer, and then some of the other team members volunteer. And I think that that's one thing that I would encourage all of you to do. Raise your hands, be brave. Even if you think that you don't know it all, go out there and say, I can make it happen, because it is a combination of technical and people skills and change management skills. And you're going to get surrounded by teams that really know how to motivate teams and propagate knowledge. And then you're going to get that support. So all you need is to be brave, raise your hand, and start pushing these things forward.
Okay, now we're going to switch, Leo. The conversation gets harder the longer we go into it, because we
Of
want to
course.
get, as you've done, you've taken us down this journey, which I appreciate, kind of in reality, not sort of concept, like some of our other guests. So let's get to more reality, which is the ROI. And I talked at the very outset this morning when we started of efficiency versus growth, and you could do one or both, right? Or ideally both, serially or at the same time. When you think about it, when Autodesk thinks about it as it relates to marketing and the marketing team, it feels like it's an efficiency play, but not just. So again, walk us through the ROI in terms of expectation, and how you actually going to measure that, or is that sort of next year's problem, and this year's problem or challenge was proficiency and getting everybody, raising the floor, as you said. But let's get to ROI now.
You need to get the different levels of proficiency engaged, right? And then some of the folks are still learning how to prompt properly. You're going to measure that with proficiency, and that is mostly productivity, right? And I forgot your slide that you have of the two things, cut and create.
Yep.
I think the first one is more about reducing the time that it takes for workflows,
Yep.
reducing time for tasks and so on.
Yep.
But once you have folks that are a little more advanced, they start thinking, okay, so now that I know how to use the tools, I need to start thinking about what am I going to use it on? And obviously they have to tie it with business results. So I think it will help if I can give you real examples of some of the work that is happening. And I would love to explain it in 3 levels that you're going to see. All of you that are in the enterprise are going to see the 3 levels. The first one is individual proficiency, right? We talked about that. Prompting, building simple agents, GPTs, those type of things. So for example, we have a team. One of the projects from this morning was for creating QBRs, quarterly business results presentations, right? How to standardize it. And then they created the format, they defining the prompt, how to do it. And so the value on that one is consistency, time that people save, and a lot of things that are important. Of course, the content is great, but if you say, okay, produce a PowerPoint for this thing, then they look at the PowerPoint, and what was the word that I learned today from this team? Work slop, right?
Right.
That it
Yeah.
the quality is not as refined as you would have a professional presentation.
Yeah.
But the content is great, and then start people thinking in other ways, using it for thought leadership and whatnot. So the quality and productivity, that's individual proficiency, level 1. Level 2, you can start thinking about workflows, right? And then workflows, you can manually do them, or you can also use automation tools if you have access to them, Zapier, Make.com, like those type of things. So I'll give you one example of one of the team members in creating segments for the contacts that we reach out to. The data can be very unstructured, right? You have data from multiple countries, and then the country name could be spelled in different ways, or could be in different languages and things like that. So what this member did is that from the tool, the CDP, exports a JSON file with all of the unstructured data, then takes it to an OpenAI loop, saying, with a prompt saying, just clean it up. This is the criteria we have. We get a JSON file back, and we upload it into the tool that we use for CDP. Nice, clean. So what happens with that? First of all, manual review of 5,000 contacts will probably take a week, right? One by one. And then the other thing that happens is that the quality increases. And when you send those communications out that you're going to send, the conversion rate increases. The unsubscribe rate decreases, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are an amazing improvement on quality. Then, by the way, there are other things. Imagine, so Autodesk makes software for people that design and make things, right? So let's say that you want to reach executives in architecture firms in, I don't know, Germany or whatever. What is the business title of an executive in Germany? They could be like, I don't know, 50, 100 variations. And if you start to put that into a code one by one, you're never going to get them right. But then AI has the ability to actually parse all of those titles. And it's like, yeah, this sounds like it could be an executive, and it's included in the list. And now we have a much greater opportunity for conversion rate and reaching the right customers. That's number 2.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I can go into the more complex level if you would like me to.
Do it. Let's do it. No, you're on a roll. The audience loves it. Keep going.
All right. So the next one is when these workflows become like true enterprise orchestration, right? And then this is when you just don't copy in these JSON files and upload manually, but then you create an automation. When a webinar ends, there's a webhook that triggers this thing and whatnot. This is tricky because you have to tap into enterprise platforms for data and for things that are actually very sensitive, and there's centralized governance. Then you need engineering support, right? So one example that we have is when some of the sales teams are having calls with some of the customers, we take the transcript, and then the transcript is processed by an AI and then capture a summary, the opportunity, a bunch of things that on average it will take like 25 minutes for a rep to actually do that work and enter that work in the CRM. So you're saving that time. What do you do with that time? Well, the ROI is incredibly high if you use that time, the accumulated time, to more outbound efforts, right? You can reach out to other customers, and then you have quality and consistency. And then there's another automation that happens, that there's a summary that is sent to a Power BI dashboard, and then people can actually see, the managers can see how the team is performing. So I go back to all of those levels, right? Individual proficiency, you just use the tools yourself, you build your agents. Team workflows, right? That you can start sharing with some of the people that have the same role, right? Because your productivity, you're going to multiply if you share with your peer, right? Here's my agent, here's my use case. And then enterprise orchestration that requires a strong partnership with engineering.
Yeah.
But there's one more thing. There is something that we have noticed about a new role that is emerging, right? And you may have heard about this go-to-market engineer role. And it's an interesting concept, kind of controversial, right? Because now you have marketers that can act as product managers, engineers, because they understand the tools, they understand the data. But there's another difference, that their compensation in many cases is tied to financial performance, right? So it's not necessarily an engineer, but it's someone that is in the go-to-market practice that is data savvy, tool savvy, and we believe that is the marketer of the future. And we want to create an environment in which, after they become proficient, which is what we're working on, they have this digital ecosystem when they can create these automated workflows within a proper governance that is not going to break things or do something that is not in a trusted way.
Yeah, I love it. Leo, I want to highlight one thing you said for my team. Hopefully some of them are listening, and the audience, because we've been keeping the list of what you need to train people on or upskill, right? We all know about prompting. Now we call it context engineering. We've talked about teaching people how to fact check AI, and I think that we should be teaching kids in middle school to fact check AI rather than giving them a hard time about using AI. We've talked about teaching people how to do their own workflow audits, right? Really teaching this because it's a skill, or it's a learned skill where you can look at your own workflows, right, and audit them, and then see where AI could be introduced. And you just added another one, which I love, which is, we're going to have to get to this too, right? Which is, if you basically, how to reinvent your role and how to redirect your time to the most valuable activities. And most people probably know that, but if there's just a little bit of a structure or a little bit of coaching to help people do that, which is, hey, stop and reflect on, yeah, if you could save an hour here, yeah, certainly, go walk the dog or take a yoga class, or if you really care about hitting your sales number, reorient that time, right? To, as you said, outbound is going to be really valuable if you're in sales, a really, really valuable activity. So I love this idea of sort of role reinvention. We're going to have to teach people, I think, and support them to reinvent their roles, right? And into stuff they enjoy doing, hopefully, and that has higher value, right?
Right. So in one conversation that you and I had some time ago, you show me your desktop, and then you have this great picture of your screen, and then you call it, I think it's your Copilot or your Claude monitor. Hello, Captain. Remember? And then you said, everything that I'm working on this monitor, I run it by an AI, right? Because it gives me, your words, you said 30 additional IQ points, right?
Yep.
So fantastic. So take it to the next level, right? Now, every single task that you do, how do you optimize it, right? How do you automate these type of things? And I know that there's this concern that the productivity is going to reduce. Okay, chances are that we're not going to be doing a lot of the manual work that we do now. but new jobs will emerge, new skills will emerge. You probably are going to have to oversee some of these workflows. I mean, the workflows will break. It needs authentication with the data sources. It needs permissions. It needs, the minute that GPT-5 came out, now we have to retrofit all of those automations to start using the new model. So new things will emerge, and there's so much opportunity right now for people who actually embrace, this new way of working.
Yeah, we're running out of time, Leo, and I can't let you go without asking you one more tough question. I want to get back to ROI and really the measurement of it, because we've all been talking all day, and I talk about it all the time, productivity gains from using these tools in our day-to-day workflows. How are you guys trying to measure that? Are you doing it like via survey, which I think is a valid way? I mean, just asking people, are you more productive? Do you feel more productive? That kind of thing. Are you are you measuring output so the team, a same size team, is able to produce more? Or again, is that something that you're going to kind of worry about next year, because that's not yet, like the nuts and bolts of the business case aren't yet required? Just where are you guys at with this?
Well, there's multiple ways to measure. So some of the main metrics are proficiency, like we talked about, and how to measure that, and then productivity. Productivity is tricky because it should not necessarily be a survey. It should be quantified. So in for example, our campaign execution process, we have a series of tasks, and then we have a team working on automating these tasks, from the moment that a ticket is created all the way to the moment that the campaign goes out, activated in whatever channel it is. So we can measure that because they're timestamps, right? And then the more that we introduce training and then we introduce automation workflows that improve all of the steps along the way, we are going to see that the time to market is reduced. So that's one way to do it.
Yeah.
And then the other way to do it, Greg, is the effectiveness of a lot of our campaigns, the effectiveness of our, say, personalized experience that we have on the website, although it is not exactly one-to-one in terms of attribution of the AI effort to the conversion rate or things like that, but we're going to see that some of the basic business metrics are going to continue to increase, to improve.
Yeah. Okay. All right. One last question. Parting advice, especially to marketers, because I think marketing is a great place to start, as we all know, with Gen AI. Give some parting advice to a marketing leader as they start the journey that you started 9 months ago.
So I can share 3 things. The first one is that you have to declare your policies and your platforms. Like if you're going to be a Copilot shop, you declare, we are a Copilot shop, because you need to stop the shadow AI. Your experts are going to get frustrated, like Taylor told us, and start using other tools. And it's very risky if you start using company data outside. So plain English guidance, you have to declare the platform and your policies. The second one is that you need to stand up this champions cohort, right? The people that have not only the technical skills, but that they are facilitators, that they know how to run workshops. You want to empower them, invest in them, so they can start building use cases and then sharing them with the team. And then the other one is just starting the next 3 months, just pick 3 workflows, 3, right? Redesign them using AI in some of the steps, even if it's manual at the beginning, and have a clear KPI for it. Are you looking for conversion rate? Are you looking for time to market? What is what you're looking for? And then run it for 6 or 8 weeks. You measure, and then you publish the results, like broadly, loudly, so everybody can hear this thing. If you do that, and if you raise your hand, I want to do this thing, start small, share loudly, you're going to be raising the bottom of proficiency together with your team.
Awesome. By the way, I just bought us more time. So I want to double click on each one of those. Let's do the AI policy first. You said be clear about the communication. Where are you on this continuum of it's a carrot or a stick? Are you going to mandate it, or are you going to incent it? How do you feel about that? And or when do you switch if you don't see the outcome you want?
We're not thinking about it that way. But if I'm forced to talk about it, it's more carrot. So we are working on an AI manifesto, right? It is a collaboration. The team is working. It's really important that you get the team to be bought into the manifesto. So you need to get the champions and even the folks that lead the enablement teams to write it. And then in this manifesto, you have guiding principles. Some are a little more philosophical and some are more practical. Philosophical ones, for example, you have to remind people that we're pairing human ingenuity with AI horsepower. right? Or that you want to do ethical and responsible AI. Or another principle is we encourage self-organizing teams. Like we can't have a bottleneck for, let me review your workflow. I mean, if you have 600 people and you're giving them the tools, you need to trust them. So you have self-organizing teams. And then you establish some boundaries. I don't know if this could necessarily be called a stick, but the boundaries are like we only use approved platforms.
Yeah.
That's a mandate. No shadow AI, right? And then we encourage reuse, for example. It's another thing. So this declaration is the AI manifesto.
Yep. So Leo, your second point was about champions, and my question is related, which is, in your mind, is there a tipping point? And did you think about sort of a percentage of active users or proficient users? Did you think about this as, I've got my skeptics and I've got my champions, but do I have to get 25% or 50%, over that tipping point? In your mind, is there a tipping point? And if so, what is it?
We haven't necessarily, I mean, it's more a practical. So if you want to train people and make sure that everybody has an understanding of manifesto or understanding of a common curriculum that you want to teach, a way of working, and that they have an opportunity to develop things. So at the beginning, the intent is to train a group of, let's call it 15 people. But what's important here is that these people need to be embedded with the different business units, right? Like someone on the brand team or the communications team or the marketing team that supports education or the marketing team that supports a channel or field marketing. These are very different use cases. So you need to have champions in those organizations that can facilitate workshops and they understand the business problems that specific organization have. So you can't have like a standalone, everybody's going to report to me type of champions. The champions need to be people that it's a part-time job in a way, right? So they go and they work with their different business units. And again, not necessarily the most technical people, right? What you want is the people that have the basic level of proficiency, but know how to teach, know how to facilitate, and know how to bring people along.
Yeah. All right. I want to get to your three workflows, your three pilots, or as you suggested. What happens, and I've seen this question in chat all day, what happens if you're 0 for 3 on the first three? You don't have success out of the gate, and the first 2 or 3, or let's say all 3, don't deliver, don't work. The workflow doesn't generate any productivity benefit, or the AI can't do it. Just what's your advice to people when there's been a stumble or two, because there's been plenty, right, all over the place with AI. So how do you recover from that? What's our talk track in that scenario?
Well, it can happen with anything, whether you use AI or not, right? If you're using a new process, a new workflow, the workflow may not bring the productivity gains that you're expecting. It's a hard question for me. I'm an optimist, Greg, and it's hard for me to think that this is not going to work. You heard it today. There's so many opportunities to make to improve the quality of your work, to improve the amount of work that you can process. So if you work with the champions and then you become proficient, chances are that you're going to find a workflow or a way of working that is going to make something better. But you just need to measure the right thing. What really matters to you as that specific business person. I wouldn't be able to tell you what is the KPI for your business, Greg, right? But a marketer that has a champion working with them, trying to solve their business problem, I'm sure that they can come up with a workflow that's a winner.
Leo, I love the way you think about this. I love the way you talk about it. So I'm going to throw you a curveball question. I apologize in advance. Remind me, are you a parent? Do you have kids?
Yeah, I have 3 kids, 3 boys.
Oh, 3 boys. Okay. And middle school, high school, graduate? You look young. So they're probably in high school?
No, they're in college now. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah. You look after yourself, clearly. Okay. But what's the advice for parents? What's the advice for parents who have kids in school?
It is definitely a curveball.
What would you tell them?
Curveball and then polarizing, right? It's first of all, I don't think that using AI is cheating, and there's a lot of using AI is cheating. So for your kids, you have to use the same concepts about proficiency, but proficiency for a student is different. A student needs to learn how to use the tools, not just to get away with a quick essay, but so they can actually learn in a better way. They can go deeper. They can, you can ask AI to, ask me questions about this, or help me to think differently about this problem so I can actually find an answer. It's very tempting to just say, find me the answer. But if you work with your kids to make sure that they understand this is a powerful learning application, you're developing this AI native generation that is, I've been referring to the market of the future, that this is going to be the knowledge worker of the future. And all of you parents have the responsibility to make sure they do it ethically.
Amen, brother. Well done. You landed it.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time as always, Leo. I learn from you every time we talk, so I look forward to our next conversation.